You're not crazy, you're just first. All right, I want you to hear me out on this because this is a life-changing concept and it's also true. So you might be thinking, what do you mean I'm first? I'm not the first to do anything. My ideas, someone's already done them, that kind of thing. I bet someone's done them better than I have. All right, I want you to just take this in for a minute because when you embrace your firstness, it not only helps build really, really strong self-worth, but it can change how bravely you show up in the world as who you truly are. It can change your perspective on whether or not you feel like you belong or not, whether or not you feel like people get you. Literally, it can help you realize that the things that you thought maybe were odd or quirky or off about you are actually almost always the things that are most right with you. You're not crazy, you're just first, but I'm going to go off on this.
Go right there. That's the first lie. You're not crazy, you're just first. Let's unpack that.
You want me to unpack that? Okay.
Go. Okay. She's on a roll. Let's keep going.
Fired up. This one lie, oh my gosh, Mel, it is life-changing. And this lie is called, you're not crazy, you're just first. So many of us think and believe the things that are different or odd or strange or quirky or wrong with us. And we should, dim our own light, hide them from others because we fear if we show up as who we truly are, then we'll be found out. People might not like us anymore. We might not be loved. Mm-hmm. And so we end up, so many of us, showing up as who we think other people want us to be. We end up showing up as our representative, right? Every day, a lot of people wake up in the morning and put on their who they think they need to be uniform with their name on the front.
Like a Denny's waitress,
Yes.
uniform. Here I am in my role.
Yes, in my
good
role.
Daughter.
Yes.
Good partner,
Yes.
Good employee. I'm just going to keep showing up.
The friend that gets invited,
Yep.
the mom that has it all together, whatever that role is, exactly. So first of all, it is impossible to have a true connection with another human being if you are showing up as anything other than who you authentically are, whether it's with a friend or a partner or a customer. For everyone listening who thinks like, if I'm me, I won't be loved, or if I'm really me, then I won't do well on social media, or I won't get the promotion, or I won't get the job, or whatever it might be. Who you are deep down inside and your authenticity is your superpower. And for anybody listening who has ever felt like that they're different or that they don't belong, growing up as a little girl, I was adopted. I have 5 families who raised me. Five families.
Can you explain that?
Through divorces and then birth family I met
gotcha. Okay.
And 5 families.
Marriage.
So blessed. I would not change a thing. And also, growing up, I always felt like I didn't belong. I would have these big ideas, like, what if we could solve world hunger? And, I was raised in an environment where no one had ever gone to college. And I would hear things like, things like that don't happen to people like us. Or you're crazy. They would always call me crazy as a term of endearment. You're crazy for having these different ideas. Fast forward, I am in my late 20s and I went to therapy. First person in any of my families that I'm aware of to go to therapy. And I literally asked my therapist, I said, am I crazy? Because I've been called this as a term of endearment my whole life. And she said,
hold on, as a term of endearment.
Yeah.
Talk about gaslighting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
And my therapist said to me, you're not crazy, but I'm really glad you're here. And she explained that when you are first in your family, to maybe break a generational cycle or to actually show up as who you authentically are, to really share how you feel, to share your ideas, to not dim your light to fit in, that it often is met with confusion, resistance, with a feeling like you need to dim your light to belong. And this moment, Mel, hit me so bright, like a light bulb that burst. I realized in that moment, I'm not crazy. I'm just first. You are the first ever you that has ever been in existence. And so when you show up as who you are, do not be surprised if not everyone gets it. There's never been a you before. And it's not just that every one of us has unique fingerprints and irises of our eyes and tongue prints that are unique and heartbeats that are unique. You're the only one in existence who's had the experiences you've had in life and feels emotions the way you feel and sees art and beauty the way that you do. And When you are brave enough to be who you truly are, it's scary at first. But when you step into it and one step at a time, you start saying what you really mean, being who you truly are. It's how you start to live in alignment with your assignment in life. And so I go deep in this lie and worthy about how to unlearn the lie that the things that are wrong with you or odd or strange or different are the things you should hide, when in fact, they're the things most right with you. There are so many moments in my life when I was going through rejection after rejection, or, not being invited to the party, or retailers weren't believing in my brand and I was tempted to quit. And I would remind myself, okay, I'm doing this authentic to me. I'm not crazy. I'm just first. I'm just first. In any moment where you're tempted to feel like your idea isn't good enough, or you shouldn't raise your hand and share how you really feel, right? So many of us can remember a moment in our childhood, in class perhaps, when we knew the answer, but for the first time ever, didn't raise our hand. Because we started to doubt, am I right? Am I going to get made fun of? Am I going to fit in? And self-doubt starts to kick in. And before you know it, we're 55 and deciding, I think I'm not going to raise my hand on that Zoom call tomorrow. Or I'm not going to go after that wild, bold idea because it might not work. And we start to live our lives hiding in plain sight. And we can be crushing things all around us that look good to everyone else, but we know we're not living the truest, highest, fullest expression of ourselves. And so for anyone who's ever felt like who they are isn't enough, it is a lie. You are not crazy. You're just first. I wrote a poem. You're not crazy. You're just first.
One thing about this, especially in the context of a family system structure, when you feel like there's something wrong with you, or when you get pushback from your family, the reframe from the lie, which is everybody telling you're crazy, you can't do that, people judging you even judging yourself.
Yeah.
That reframe is so powerful, because I've been really surprised by how difficult it is in my own life. But I know in your life, as you're listening, to break free of that fear of disappointing people in your family or what their expectations were for you. And so to think, oh, I'm just the first one to go to college. I'm just the first one to not be an accountant. I'm just the first one to really prioritize healing. Well, I'm just the first one that's going to live my life differently than everybody in my family has done forever. And in so doing, I am setting up this lie, you're crazy, and calling it out for what it is and living in the truth, which is, no, I'm just first. And as much as I don't want to take a break, I want to hit pause. Let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. They allow us to bring this magic to you listening for free. So give them a little bit of love, but don't you dare go anywhere. I'm telling you right now, don't go anywhere, because Jamie and I are going to be waiting for you after a short break. And when we return, there's so much to dig into. There are 4 more lies. There are so many more stories that you're going to hear. And one of my favorite stories is the first time she ever appeared on QVC. I cannot wait for you to experience this. We'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back. It's your friend Mel, and I am here today with one of my all-time favorite people, Jamie Kern Lima. Her resume is so long. She's the founder of It Cosmetics. She's a New York Times bestselling author. Her brand new book is Worthy, and we are digging into the 5 lies that you are telling yourself that are holding you back from reaching your potential. And we are in the middle of covering the first line, which is, you're not crazy. Like all those people that told you that you're crazy, it's a lie. It's a lie. And Jamie's beautiful, empowering rock star reframe, you're just first. You're just the first one in your family to do this. You're just the first one to go to school. You're just the first one to have this idea. So Jamie, I want to add to this conversation and go a little bit deeper, because I have a question from a listener named Lisa. Lisa, I have this belief that good things happen to others, but not me. How do I start believing in myself?
Yes. So that is such a common lie that we tell ourselves, that good things happen to other people, but not us. And I was raised around that lie, right? I was raised around that lie that, oh, things like that can't happen to people like us. So my whole family, a lot of my family believes that lie as well. And I remember when I was waitressing at Denny's, I had this moment where I'm like, I think I could run this restaurant, right? I had this moment. But guess what? Self-doubt kicked in really fast. And that lie that she just shared, Lisa just shared, I remember thinking that, oh, but I can't, I'm not qualified to do that. People like me don't run the restaurant, right? And so how do you overcome that? So let me just take a step back. Every single thing in life is the meaning we attach to it, right? And we have the power to unlearn that lie, because this is a lie.
That's true. That's a story you're telling yourself.
It's the story you're telling yourself.
That things like that don't happen to people like us. That's a lie.
Exactly. It is a lie. And so maybe there's a lot of evidence in the past that makes you go, oh, but I have evidence to prove this. Okay. But first question is, do you want to unbelieve that? Do you want to still continue believing that lie? Because it is a lie, right? I remember hundreds of no's and rejections into It Cosmetics. So easy for me to say, oh, I'm a person that not only gets rejected, but I'm a reject. Let it take root in my self-worth level. And then that's when it is a powerful lie that becomes hard to unlearn. Things like that don't happen to people like me, right? Is a lie. And learning to reframe that first step, identifying it, which she did so beautifully in that question, now deciding, do I want to believe that? Right? That's the next question, because let me just get really real here. Some of us use our lies as excuses on why something's not happening. So the next question is, do I want to unlearn that lie, right? Because those are just lies that lead to self-doubt, that keep us stuck, that keep us feeling like we're unworthy. Right now, as we're talking, 80% of women do not believe they're enough, right? 91% of girls and women don't love their bodies. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. 73% of men feel inadequate and like they're not enough, right? So why I wrote Worthy is like the time to unlearn these lies has come. And so for Lisa, great job being aware of the lie. A lot of times we tell ourselves lies, we're not even aware of it. We just think they're truths, right? But guess what? You're the character of your main life. You cannot always control all the supporting actors and actresses that come into your world, but you can control the main character and how you describe her and how you define her and what you want her storyline to be going forward. And so the next question is, do you want to keep that lie, or do you want to unlearn it? If you want to unlearn it, you reframe it, and every time it comes into your mind, you intercept it. You intercept that lie that says things like that don't happen to people like me. You decide, oh, no, my new meaning is things like that haven't happened yet. Oh, but they're going to happen. Like once I step into who I authentically am, I am the first ever only me, and I'm going to live in alignment with my assignment. And I believe, for me, when that lie comes into my head, I'm like, oh, I'm not crazy, I'm first. And I just reframe it, and I decide the meaning I attach to my story. I decide what I'm going to believe is going to happen, and I decide that will be my narrative. And the second we do that, right, because what we focus on is what we magnify, and that becomes our whole life. And when you change your story, you change your entire life.
Was there a moment in the building of It Cosmetics where that lie came up for you? You're getting told no, 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 and you start to look around and see there's all these other cosmetic brands. Clearly it's happening for other people, and it's not happening for someone like me.
Yeah, all the time. The biggest struggle for me was, and especially as we started getting success, right, which was many years in, but we got a big shot on QVC. So after years of no's, I get a yes on QVC, which is a live television shopping channel for anyone unfamiliar with it, and it's broadcast to 100 million homes, okay? At this moment, Mel, we were selling only 2 to 3 orders a day on our website. And
that's not enough to pay the bills, Jamie. No. I don't know if you know that, but that's not enough to pay the bills.
We were teetering on bankruptcy for years. And after hearing no after no after no after no, even from QVC, I got a yes for one shot in this 10-minute window to launch the product. And
put everybody at the scene, because this sounds like something that would cause any human being the biggest case of stress diarrhea on live television, because it is an unbelievable pressure cooker, what
Yes.
you have to do. So
Yes.
just for the
Yes.
uninitiated,
Yes.
put us on the set at QVC. You are teetering on bankruptcy.
Yes.
You are only selling 2 of your products every day. You've been at this for years and years and years, and no, and no, and no, and you're up
Yes.
in your head like, people like me, this doesn't happen to people like me, it happens to them. And,
Yes.
and the lies
Yes.
are coming up. So
Yes.
what do you do at QVC? Like, what do you have to do when somebody says, yes, you can sell your product?
Yeah. So, okay, I learned I had to sell over 6,000 units of this product to hit their sales goal in the 10-minute window.
In 10
In
minutes?
10 minutes or not come back. And remember, we're only selling two or three orders a day, right? So I go to 20 banks trying to get a loan to fund the inventory to do this. 22 banks said no. The 23rd bank, California Bank and Trust, gave us a loan for just the amount to cover this purchase order and a little bit more to get my one shot on QVC. I learned it's a consignment offer, which means if I don't sell it, I don't get paid. I have to take it all back. Right? And everything was on the line. And here's the story about the power of your authenticity, about knowing you're not crazy, you're just first. Because in that moment, I had been told no so many times, right? And we start to doubt, right, that lie. Do things like this possibly happen for people like me? So we figured it all out. I get there. All of these third-party consultants are saying, okay, if you want to do well, here's what you need to do. You need to book this type of model to demonstrate your product, which was all like, people who look like they're 12 with flawless skin. I'm like, that is not why I created this brand. That's not authentic to why I did this. And I would tell them, these third-party consultants, and they help a lot of people. And they really wanted me to win, right? And I said, well, what if I put a model in her 80s and then women in their 40s and 50s with hyperpigmentation and someone who's dealing with acne? And what if I take my own makeup off on national TV and show my bright red rosacea? And they were mortified.
They're like, you're crazy.
Yes, you're crazy. They said, listen, like you get one shot. They're like, you understand you get one shot, right? And I remember, Mel, I flew out to QVC in Pennsylvania, and a week before I sat in this rental car in the parking lot. Every single day staring at the front door of the building, like praying, crying in the car all alone because I felt like the pressure was so heavy. And in that moment, those lies come up and I start to doubt myself. And I think, well, maybe I should be inauthentic, try it their way, right? And maybe I'll do well finally, and then I'll make money, and then I could try it my way. I had all of these thoughts come up. And I remember this moment in that car where I these words that while authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success, inauthenticity guarantees failure. Every time, over time. You and I, everyone listening, you can see people popping up online everywhere, and maybe they do well for a minute, but this over time, it does not work. Why is Mel Robbins' podcast the #1 podcast? Why? Because look how you show up. Fully authentically, the same way on air as you are off air. I know this lesson, yet I'm sitting there in my car telling myself lies like some of your listeners are writing in, right? Things like this don't happen to me. Everyone's telling me I'm crazy. But I know every single person listening, you are not crazy. You are just first. And when someone does not get you, that's okay, right? You have to align with your authenticity because that's what is your superpower. And I knew that lesson and I was scared out of my mind to trust that, but I did. And I walked into the building, and the moment I walked into the studio, there's these giant clocks on the floor that said 10 minutes. Yeah. I got 10 minutes to hit those sales goals or not come back. And then, Mel, I learned right before I went on air that you're not guaranteed your 10 minutes. If you're a minute or two into your presentation, they know by the second if you're hitting sales numbers. If you're a minute or two in and you're not hitting sales numbers, your clock, you think you have 8 minutes left, it jumps to 1 minute. You're done. So I learned that. And I go on air, and you talk about, you were mentioning Imagine stress diarrhea. I go on air, I'm drenched in sweat. I have on 2 pairs of Spanx under my dress, not because I care what I look like. I was trying to absorb all the sweat so that I didn't sweat through my dress on national TV. And I remember the lights go on, and I was trying to do a demonstration to show how my product doesn't crease and crack on my wrist, and my hand was shaking so much that the host grabbed my hand, put it under the podium. She's like, "Thank you, sugar," and she took over. And I remember the moment on national television, my bright red rosacea comes up, my bare face. And I remember walking over to models every age and shape and size and skin tone and skin challenge and calling them beautiful and meaning it. And I didn't know how we were doing a few minutes in, but I knew I wasn't cut yet. And then we got down to the 1 minute mark left, and I hear the host say, "The deep shade's almost gone. The tan shade's almost sold out." I was like, oh. And then literally the moment the 10-minute mark hit, this giant sold out sign comes up across the screen. I start crying on national television. They cut from me and go to like Dyson vacuum or something. And my husband, I remember this, my husband comes rushing through the double doors of the studio. I'm sobbing. Our very first employee, one of my best friends of 20 years, she was the only person on payroll at the time because we couldn't even afford to pay ourselves. She starts sobbing. My husband comes running over to me, and I thought he's going to hug me. And he just looks at me, and he puts his arms in the air and his fists, and he's like, "We're not going bankrupt." And I'm like, "Real women have spoken," and just like sobbing. And I remember in that moment, right, all the things people told me about me would not work. The years and years of rejection, the retailers that didn't believe in me, making that decision to remind myself, and every person listening right now, I don't know what room you're walking into today, what phone call you're walking into, what Zoom you're walking into, what idea you're about to share, but you're doubting it. You are not crazy. You are just first, right? You're just first. It's why I wrote this poem that just poured out.
Would you read us the poem you wrote?
I will, yes. And what I'll do is, let me read an excerpt of it. It's the only poem in the book. It's called "You're Not Crazy, You're Just First." "Who do you think you are?" they say. "Things like that aren't for people like us. Why are you going around changing, planning to leave us in the dust? Are you forgetting where you come from? Are we not good enough anymore?" And just like that, the temptation to play life small feels more comfortable than before. If you're doubting you're enough, your thoughts, their words have got you down. It's time for your soul to tell your mind there's a new boss in town. See, there's no one else quite like you in the entire universe. And what your soul knows is you're not crazy. You're just first. The first to have your hopes and dreams. The first you there's ever been. So don't be surprised if they don't get you or try to shame you to fit in. They call you odd, strange, different for having dreams bigger than they can see because those dreams weren't given to them. They see them through fear and anxiety. And even the well-intentioned people who love you to the bone can see you pursuing your dreams as a reminder of them not fulfilling their own. If people like people who are like them, hiding your true self's a comfort zone. But a calling unexpressed inside you leaves you feeling anguished and alone, even inside of your own home. They call you words like crazy and say, "We stick together for better or for worse." But what your knowing knows is you're not crazy, you're just first. The first to launch the business, to dust your dreams off of the shelf. The first to believe you're worthy of betting on yourself. The first to beat addiction, to live life sober and awake. The first to end the generational cycle that you know you're born to break. The first to start healing. The first to forgive so you'll be free. The first to love others for who they are, not for who you wish they'd be. And when doubt tempts you to dim your light, always remember this verse. Your soul knows you're made for more, with so much purpose it could burst. You're born with greatness inside you, and whether it's a blessing or a curse, the world won't be better until your greatness is dispersed. See, there's only one of you in the entire universe, and your knowing knows deep down you're not crazy. You're just first.
Oh, wow.
Are you crying, Mel Robbins?
Well, I'm just sitting here. I'm very proud of you. What does that mean to you?
It means freedom. When you unlearn those lies that lead to self-doubt, oh my gosh, and you start to ignite those truths that wake up worthiness, Like, that is what that feels like joy and tastes like freedom. Like, that is when we start to feel alive, right? That is when the weight of other people's expectations or even the ones we put on ourselves starts to lift. Like, we don't soar to the level of our goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth, right? We don't rise to what we believe is possible. We will always fall to what we believe we're worthy of. You will never feel joy and fulfillment in life until you learn to embrace who you truly are and learn to believe you are enough as who you are. And that is the truth. Every person listening, I do not care how many past mistakes and failures and regrets, and none of that is relevant when it comes to your worth. And when we learn that, it is the most powerful thing we can do. So,
whew, I need a tall glass of water in order to just digest what you just poured into us, Jamie. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to take a quick break right now and hear a word from our sponsors. And when we return, don't go anywhere. We have 4 more lies to cover. And this next one, I know that you're going to get a ton out of because it's about your past and about the mistakes that you've made. And Jamie is going to teach you today how to dismantle that lie and how to discover your worth and to keep on going. Welcome back. It's your friend Mel. I am here with the remarkable Jamie Kern Lima, New York Times bestselling author. She's here with her new book, Worthy. You know her as the founder of It Cosmetics, which she sold to L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. And she is here today in our Boston studios to teach you the 5 lies that you're telling yourself that are holding you back from all of your power and all of your purpose and unlocking all the joy in your life. And so, Jamie, let's go to lie number 2. My past mistakes and failures determine my future success. And the way that I want to dig into this one is with a question from a listener named Jesse, who writes, Jamie, I keep failing over and over and over again. How do I know when it is time to quit? And this gets us back to, is it a no, like, hell no, we're not doing this anymore?
yeah.
Or is it a knowing to keep going? What is the specific thing that you could tell her or anybody to do to really tease out a string of rejections?
Yes.
And whether it's like, this is quitting time.
Right.
Or it's keep going time.
Or it's keep going time. Jesse, I love that you asked this question because here's the thing. You go online, all you see is what looks like everyone's successes. And when we're getting rejected, when we're failing, we think something's wrong with us. We think we're alone, right? We think like, oh, maybe my gut is wrong. I am living proof that rejections, failures, setbacks, no one else believing in you, things not getting traction, things not going your way for a long period of time are not an indication of the potential of your success. They are not. And the people who succeed the most, and you can Google anyone in history. You can read all about my story, Mel Robbins' story, right? That anybody who has moved humanity forward, who has launched an incredible business, an incredible podcast, written a great book, read about all of them. The people who succeed the most are the same people who fail the most because they're the ones who try the most. Right? So anybody listening today who's been hiding their failures and their past mistakes and thinking it's just me, first of all, it is not. You are not alone. You are one of the brave ones willing to actually go for it. So you're one of the ones now in the rare group who is highly likely to succeed because you're one of the ones going for it. So that is one of the most important things. And how do you know when it's time? Because I do believe that sometimes knowing when to let go of a dream matters as much as knowing when to go after one.
So how do you do that?
So I approach that the same way I approach, is it time for this relationship to end, or me to leave this job, or me to leave this friendship, or, all of those things. I get still. And for some people, this might look like praying. It might look like meditation. I get still. I will pray. I don't talk out loud when I pray. Some people do. There is no wrong way to pray. There is no wrong way to meditate, right? And so this is a universal tool, whether someone has a faith that they practice or does not. And I literally will ask for the answer. I will ask for the answer and I will wait until I hear it. And one thing that's important to do is not project the answer you want and think you hear that, right? Because you can block your intuition when you're just focused on what you're hoping for. But to really get still, get quiet, and ask the question, I will wait until I feel an intuition or something as close to a feeling or a knowing as I can, and I will take a step in that direction.
Okay, so I want to really break this down.
Yeah.
Because we're all hanging on your words, because that difference between a no is the truth
Yeah.
versus a no is just fear
Right.
and self-doubt, and knowing being deeper.
A lot of people, they go, well, I don't hear my intuition. What do
Yes.
I do if I don't
Yes.
hear it? This is a skill that you can build. It's like building a muscle. As women, especially, oh my gosh, really all generations of women. But when you think about women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s in particular,
Yep.
a lot of us were raised to be quiet, to not actually like say what we mean, and to be people pleasers. Or we learn that we're not enough on our own. Look at all the studies that show women will make decisions based on consensus, right? You look at the studies that show when they ask little girls and boys a question, the boys will give an answer right away. The girls will turn to each other and try to come up with a consensus answer. So we, especially as women, learn like to not hear our own intuition. And so as adults, the beautiful thing is we all have it, and you are never too young or too old to start learning how to hear it again. And so one of my favorite tools to build your intuition is just to take some time, get still, ask a question, see if anything comes up. And that's okay if it doesn't. But then also carve out some time to think back to moments in your life when you had a gut feeling about something, and maybe you trusted it, and then what happened? And then similarly, think back to moments when you had a gut feeling, you didn't trust it, you let everyone else's opinion tell you what to do or whatever, you went against your feeling, and then what happened then? And as you focus on those moments in your life, you start to build that muscle of remembering, what does that feel like when I have a feeling? And when I trusted it or didn't trust it, what happened? And you start building that muscle over time. And you've got to give yourself grace, right? Because you talk about neural pathways on your show all the time, but for a lot of us, we haven't learned how to hear ourselves or trust ourselves our entire life. What if we all take up this hobby of, I'm going to learn to trust my own intuition? And every day I'm going to take one step forward of trusting it, right? Or just asking myself before I just give an answer to someone and say yes when I really mean no. Like say, oh yeah, I'll volunteer for that thing when you don't want to do it, or whatever it is, right? Just pause and be like, how am I really feeling, right? And that's your intuition telling you exactly what you need to know. And then just making that decision one step at a time to start trusting and to rebuild that muscle.
You know, if I can offer to you listening just a little explanation for how I do this.
Yes, I would. Yes.
So for me, absolutely, got to get still.
Yeah.
Because I notice that the lies are more dominant and the self-doubt is more powerful, the busier I am. And the more I'm just in the go, 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 go. Because there's a lot of emotion and energy with go, 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 right? And so when I get still and I really drop into what is true for me, there is a very distinct feeling associated for me personally. And the feeling is this. If, let's just say that I have to make like a phone call. Every one of us has a phone call we're probably putting off or dreading, right? And if you drop into, how do I really feel about this? Do I need to make this call? Should I not? Or a conversation. There's a conversation that you need to have. And we avoid it, and we avoid it, and we avoid it. But your knowing is going, you got to have the conversation. But the no is like, not today, not today, not today. For me, I can drop into the knowing if I really try to feel the energy around doing it or not. So when I'm putting something off, even though it feels a little bit like a relief, I feel a part of me shrinking. There is something about the energy of that that is depleting and constricting and small. And if I access the knowing, what is always true for me, even if it scares the daylights out of me, is that there is something more expansive. And there is something through that experience that I know is going to expand or grow or free me up. And that's how I distinguish at a very deep level, okay, what is actually my knowing versus what is the know being driven by emotion or self-doubt or pattern or whatever.
Isn't that so true, right? When we live like in alignment with our truth, you feel that expansion, that freedom, And even it's like the thing you're dreading, you don't want to do it, but then you do it and you just feel that freedom. Whereas if you're letting your self-doubt take over, the thing telling you don't do it, that doesn't feel that same way. And I love how you described it. It feels constricted. And I just think of, we think, oh, I'm going to, be who everyone else wants me to be or dim my light to play it safe or to get love. It feels that same way. Dimming our light, not being who we truly are, can feel like the safe thing to do, but it feels constricted. But when we show up fully authentically, even if not everyone gets it, if we make that decision, I'm not crazy, I'm just first, right? You're going to feel what Mel just described, that expansiveness, because it's part of your knowing of who you're born to be, on this earth. And I love that. That's beautiful.
Well, I always get the question, and I know you do too, how do I know the difference between something I'm afraid to do and the fear is real?
Yeah.
And here's what I have to say to you. 9 times out of 10, I am afraid to do the thing that I know is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fear is real.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to get still.
Yes, exactly.
Now, there's another lie. So this is kind of the third lie that you really had to dismantle, which is your weight determines your worth.
Whew. Yes. For every person listening, Mel Robbins, most of my entire life, I believed my weight determined my worth.
What does that mean?
Right now, 89% of girls and women will opt out of meaningful activities, including interaction with friends and loved ones, when they do not like how they look. We miss out on our lives when we are waiting on our weight. And by the way, for some people, it's not literal weight. It's the weight of other people's expectations that they need to stop waiting on, the weight of their own expectations, right? What are you waiting on right now in your life, and how are you letting that determine your worth before you live your best life? So this was a lie that took me most of my entire life so far to unlearn. And I created a business that was so about celebrating every person, for their authentic beauty. I was able to overcome so many lies that lead to self-doubt in my life. I was able to build self-worth around believing I was worthy of having a CEO title, right? Of running a business, of building a team of over 1,000, all those things. But I still struggle with the lie that my weight determined my worth. And it wasn't until my daughter's 1-year birthday, we're at this hotel and I'm about to opt out of swimming again because I don't want to wear the swimsuit. I want to sit in the on the chair on the side of the pool, all covered up, and miss out on this moment in her life. When I realized what has waiting on my weight already cost me in my life. And the answer, way too much. Memories, experiences, joy, all of it. Because as humans, as you know, we're wired to avoid pain at all costs. And I had been thinking, oh, if I go out there in my swimsuit, I'll be judged. I'll be this, I'll be that. I was associating pain with that. In that moment, I flipped the script and I associated more pain with what I had missed out on, with the pain of regret, with the pain of what has waiting on my weight already cost me. And that is how I flipped the lie around. And I decided no more. And I literally took my cover up off. I shook my cellulite with joy and I got right in that pool. And I made it not about me anymore. I'm like, me hiding on the sidelines is what I'm doing is I'm telling my daughter she's not worthy of her body either. I am not, that lie has got to stop now. the moment we step into our power, that is when we give other people permission to step into theirs, right? And now every time I will walk around in a swimsuit, all I think about is, I would never care what someone else looks like. People do not care what I look like. This is about like living life with no regret. This is about inspiring other people to embrace all of who they are and start considering what has waiting on your way already cost you, right? And when we think of it that way, that is almost way more painful than the fear that we're making up in our heads about just living our best life as who we are, exactly as we are.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I don't have anything to add, so I'm going to go to lie number 4. So lie number 4, if I stand out, I'll get kicked out. What does that mean?
This is a big one because as women, we learn to downplay our strengths, to dim our light, to fit in. We often will bond over problems, right? We'll be self-deprecating. If we get a victory, we'll downplay it and give credit away to someone else. But if there's something wrong with us, like, we'll tell everyone, oh, my house is a disaster, my kid is a hot mess. And we bond with each other over problems and we worry like, oh, wow, I crushed this, or I did, this happened to me. We worry if we share that, then, if we're great, we'll get hate. And
I actually struggle with this one.
Yeah.
There are very few people that I share my success with or my wins or the things that I'm really proud of that are going really, really well. Like I chronically downplay things. You're somebody that I'm the first person to text, the first person to be like, oh my God, Jamie, this thing, like big and small.
Yeah.
But this is definitely something that I struggle with, that and I grew up around someone who constantly was griping about other people who were wealthy or who had this or who had that or had the other thing. And I started to associate any kind of standing out as attracting disapproval, a lack of love.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it, right? We think if I stand out, I'll get kicked out. I will no longer belong and be loved. And so we hide and dim our light. And thank you for just texting me when you have a victory, because I hope you sense I'm so freaking excited for you and so happy.
That's why I text you.
And and real friends want the best in others. And it just takes every one of us together to start celebrating wins of other people, to start sharing our own wins. And I think one tip on that for everybody listening, if you're just hesitant to, unlearn that lie, and you're worried that people will think, oh, who does she think she is? Or she's arrogant, or all that crap, which is just their own unworthiness being reflected on you because they also believe that lie. Instead of thinking, oh, I'm going to share my win because of myself, just flip it and think, when I share my win, I'm living an example of freeing another woman to start sharing hers. And you make it about something bigger than yourself. And that is how you unlearn the lie, one step at a time, especially for people that feel like, oh, self-worth is selfish. It's not. It is not. The more you raise your own self-worth, the stronger you are an example for other people on how to believe they're enough too.
Awesome. The 5th lie I wanted you to explain that you had to confront was labels are permanent. What does that mean?
Yes, Mel. So many of us in our life have let labels that someone else said about us, it could be in our childhood, it could be in a relationship as an adult, something an employer said, something someone said online, something we told ourselves. We've let these labels stick to us and take root, and we've told ourselves the lie that they're permanent.
I have a question for you about this, because there is this remarkable thing that happened to you when you were building IT Cosmetics, where you are wildly successful. You're sitting in a meeting with a bunch of bankers. You have gone through all of these rounds through this process, and somebody gave you a label. And I'd love for you to tell that story and then tell us, how the heck did you peel that label off yourself?
Yes.
When somebody so publicly just took you down?
Yes. So often we think the label's permanent. Or we don't realize we're carrying it around and we're believing it. We're letting it take root in our identity. But labels are like Post-it notes. They have this light adhesive. They come right off when you decide for them to come off. So, but it's hard when we don't realize they're stuck to us. And they can be like lead balloons on our wings when we're trying to fly. They hold us down. And so I was meeting with this potential investor, huge private equity company. And you guys, I really wanted him to believe in us because I thought maybe he'll be able to use all his leverage and power to get us into all the retail stores, right, that were telling us no. And this big investor, they're known for like taking little small companies and making them huge companies that a lot of us shop for in grocery stores or big box retailers.
And to put this in context, you're already killing it on QVC. Like this is not like you're in your living room anymore.
Yeah.
This is, Jamie is legit the biggest brand at QVC. She is destroying it. And now she's going to level this up. And so she goes to somebody in the industry and you have the results and you have the product and you've got the track record and you've got the revenue and you go waltzing in there meeting after meeting and tell us what happened.
And they loved our products. And I just thought this is going to be so great because we're going to take it to the next level and all these things. And got to the final meeting. I presented our whole product pipeline for the future. And like, I just thought this was going so well. I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be it. This is going to be it. And at the very end of the meeting, he's 3 feet from me. My husband's on the other side. And I remember the moment his mouth started moving and he says, congratulations, you should be so proud of this product, but it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And I was like, okay, can you tell me why? Because feedback is usually a gift. And he just got really quiet. And then he says to me, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I said, yes, please. He says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I remember a lifetime of self-doubt and body doubt, like flooding my body all at once, right? But Mel, the moment he said those words to me, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. I got this feeling in the pit of my stomach. I can feel like it was yesterday that said, he's wrong. And what I know happened in that moment, because I got that deep feeling, was that this dude gave me a no, but God gave me a knowing, right? And it goes back to what we're talking about is whether we're the ones telling ourselves no or someone else gives us a label and it's a no, like it always comes down to which you listen to. Do you listen to the no or do you listen to the knowing? We let these labels or these stories we're telling about ourselves stick to us. And sometimes we don't realize we're doing it, okay? Mm-hmm. And whether it's I've had failures, I've made mistakes, everyone keeps breaking up with me, friends betray me, whatever these stories are, these labels can snowball and impact everything we believe. And so in Worthy, I go through this exercise on how do you identify these labels. They can impact your self-worth at such a deep level. And again, in life, so many of us have had failures, rejections, etc., that have rattled our confidence. But when we let them take root as a label that we're a failure, we're a reject, that's when it impacts our self-worth. That's when it impacts everything in our life. And so learning to identify those labels and then ask yourself, is that really true? No, it is not really true. It is the story we are telling ourselves, right? And we can remove that label and replace it with a new empowering label. So in the case of me being adopted and my parents always working, I was like, okay, I can look at it as I'm unwanted or abandoned.
Right.
And instead I'm like, no. What is something that is actually really true? It has to be true that I'm going to believe about this story. Oh, I'm chosen. My birth mom, her life would have been way easier if she did not have me, but she chose to have me. And then my parents who raised me chose to adopt it. I'm not rejected. I'm not unwanted. I'm chosen. And here's one of my favorite ones for someone listening today. This is my, oh my gosh, I'm going to jump in my seat.
You
at
are
this
hopping
one.
in your
I'm
seat.
hopping in my seat.
She's getting wound up, everybody.
Because I feel like
Jamie's winding herself up.
When you like talk about our knowing, I just think about every day. We get rejected. We tell ourselves no's. We get people sticking labels on us. We apply for the job. We want it so bad. And we don't know why they didn't see our value. And we don't get it. And we have the person betray us or pull the rug out from under us. And we're so tempted to assign a label that is disempowering, right? And so my favorite way to do this is to replace it with new empowering labels. So for example, every time something like that happens to me, I will assign a new label that I believe to be true, whether it was the person that I really wanted to be friends with and they just don't see my value, or the people that don't include me, or the door that closed in my face, or whatever it is. I decide the label is divinely ordered, like my life is divinely orchestrated, right? And I choose that label and that trust over rejected, failure. By the way, Mel, I don't think I've ever shared this before on out loud, but in high school, I was voted biggest procrastinator.
Really?
Biggest procrastinator in the high school yearbook. And listen, at the time, it was kind of true. You know what I mean? I wanted to hang out with my friends, and I was working 4 jobs, and so I'd turn in homework late and all these things. If I let that label that people gave me at that time, biggest procrastinator, there right in the yearbook, if I let that take root, I could have never, when I had those feelings, when I was a struggling waitress, feeling like, oh, I could launch a business. If I let that label take root, I could have never done it, right? It's about assigning new labels,
And this is everywhere. Like, I'm thinking people that say, I'm not a morning person,
Yes.
or I'm not smart, or I'm not good with languages, or
Yeah.
I'm not great at math, or
Yeah.
I could never. Or
I'm
back
too
to
old. I'm too
old.
young.
Got
My
it.
days have passed. No one wants all of it.
Wow.
All of it. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should just race out of here and go do something. Like, I'm like, okay, all right. You
Go
know, like
read
if either like
Worthy.
a great sermon or emotional motivation, I'm like, okay, let's go. But whatever happened to that investor? Did you ever see him again?
Okay, I didn't hear. By the way, I prayed before this episode, like something that would happen in this room today is exactly for someone listening to us right now. So I love that you feel that way, because I feel that way. I cannot wait until people write into the Mel Robbins podcast and share this episode, right? Because that we all need to unlearn these lies that lead to self-doubt. Okay, I did not hear from that potential investor again for 6 years. The day that we sold our business to L'Oreal, right? Which, how wild. I mean, when I was waitressing Denny's, saving my tip money, like I could have never imagined that this would all happen. I had hoped, I had little feelings, but the day L'Oreal bought our business for $1.2 billion cash, and they were a public company. So it was all over the press. It was the homepage of the Wall Street Journal. That was the first time I heard from him. The one who said women won't buy makeup from someone who looks like you. First time I heard from him in 6 years. And he said, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong.
No shit.
And it's funny. I know I've joked with you before about this, that in that moment, like, I just think for anyone who's seen the movie Pretty Woman, where she goes in the store and they won't help her, and then she comes back later. Like, what I wanted to say to him in that moment was, big mistake. Huge. I can give you 1.2 billion reasons why. It was a huge mistake. But I kept it classy. I did not say that. I wouldn't have wanted to be him. And I believe, I go into Worthy about...
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If he had said yes, you wouldn't have sold your company for over $1 billion to L'Oreal, and you wouldn't have been directed on the path you were meant to go. And one of my biggest takeaways always when I listen to you and I hear your wisdom is that it's easy to look backwards at your life and both go, thank God it happened that way, or I now understand how all the dots connect.
Yes.
What you're talking about is the life-changing magic of learning how to be in the present moment, the present day, and trust that the dots will connect.
Yes.
And that your life is directing you toward the lessons or toward the life that you are supposed to be leading. And that if you can get out of this self-doubt, and if you can tee up the lies and the labels that you keep telling yourself that simply aren't freaking true, that you can drop into this deeper knowing. And the deeper knowing can be as simple as, it is going to work out.
Yeah.
I am figuring it out.
Yep.
I
Yep.
do know what is right for me.
And I'm worthy of being who I am. I'm worthy of my goals and my dreams. And our self-worth is our ceiling. Our self-worth is our ceiling in every area of life. And it's those lies that I'm so grateful we got to dive into that they create a ceiling for us. They create a ceiling, right? And so unlearning those lies and learning to believe that you are worthy exactly as you are. You are not crazy. You're just first, right? That your past failures do not determine your future successes, right? That if you stand out, you'll get kicked out. If you stand out, that is how you step into alignment with your assignment and the person that you're born to be. So it's like unlearning those lies is the greatest way to get like on your North Star of who you're born to be and to enjoy the journey. Because when we're living under the belief of all these lies, you cannot be fulfilled. No matter how much you accomplish, you cannot be fulfilled when you don't believe you're enough. You cannot accomplish your way into fulfillment when underneath it all, you don't believe you're enough. You cannot get married and have the kids and get the six-pack abs and do all the things you thought, and then those will make you fulfilled. They will not make you fulfilled when underneath it all, you do not believe you are worthy or enough. And so that is why this episode is so powerful that you're putting out about unlearning the lies. You are fully worthy, and learning to believe you are and that you are enough. That is what brings fulfillment in your whole life. That's when you on that path are able to be fulfilled as you step into all the most beautiful and hard and difficult parts of your life. And last thing I'll say is when you believe you're worthy, you become more fearless and more ambitious, right? Because oh, I might go for it and fall flat on my face. It might shake my confidence for a little bit, but it cannot touch my self-worth, right? So your self-worth is your ceiling, which is why I'm so passionate about this, because when we don't believe we're enough as we are, we'll either stay stuck, we'll go for things and sabotage them, we'll hit a ceiling, or we'll actually achieve them, but feel empty and like something's missing. So believing you're enough, building your sense of worthiness, it's the key. I did a lot of things my whole life where I did not feel fulfilled and I thought something was missing even though I was achieving and I didn't know why. And it's because deep down inside, I didn't yet believe I was enough. So that is the one thing that will change everything.
So I definitely want to talk about some of the myths and the lies that we tell ourselves, but let's go into before, because you really primed the three things. Why don't we talk about those three things quickly so it's on people's radar?
Yeah, and if they know, like, well, wait, is this really for them? Because to your point, like, you know, uh, self-confidence is so important. I see self-confidence almost as like this house we're building with all the rooms and the achievements and the new art on the wall and this beautiful, masterful house, which is important. But our self-worth is the foundation beneath all of it. And if our foundation has cracks in it, like our house will only ever be as strong and as fulfilled as that foundation. So self-worth, it challenges. And by the way, let me preface this by saying most people with self-worth issues can often be crushing it on the outside and everything looks like it's going so well and they're winning in their business and in their jobs and this and that. But here's how self-worth issues show up in three ways, and it's universal no matter how much of the world's definition of success you have. So if you have low to medium self-worth, it can often look like you're stuck and you don't know why. And you might be like, oh, my business is at six figures, but I don't know why I can't get into seven. Or I have this big idea to run a company or launch my own thing, but I don't know why I'm not going for it. Or I want a life partner, but I'm just not getting on the dating app or putting myself out there. And a lot of people feel stuck. They don't know why. And they think, I just need to get more skills. And that's important and might be true. Or I need to get more experience. And that might be true. A lot of times, though, people are stuck because deep down inside, they don't actually believe they're worthy of the thing. They don't believe they're worthy of a loving relationship, or they don't believe they're worthy of actually going from having an idea inside of them to launching the business. And it becomes a deep rooted self worth issue why we're stuck. Because to what you shared, we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. And then low to medium, when you have low to medium self worth, what that often looks like is medium level self worth is that you'll go for the thing, you'll put yourself out there, but you hit a ceiling, like your self worth is your ceiling, or you sabotage it along the way. right? You write the whole manuscript and then you don't know why you're not sending it out to publishers and instead scrolling Instagram for 8 hours a day. Or you meet a great partner and you just somehow are just not attracted to them and you put them in the friend zone and you don't know why you're sabotaging different things. And a lot of people do this. They can be crushing it in their business, doing all these things, but they're sabotaging personal relationships or fitness goals. And that's what medium self-worth looks like. It looks like we'll hit a ceiling, or we'll sabotage the thing. And then medium to high self-worth, which a lot of achievers fall into this. That looks like you'll go for the thing, you'll actually achieve it and arrive at it, but you won't feel fulfilled and you feel like something's missing and like it's never ever enough, and that you're never enough. And
Hmm.
so the big breakthrough here, I think, is that for a lot of us, for me, for decades, I just thought solving that with more achievement or things that built more confidence would finally make me feel enough, not realizing confidence is fragile, it's based on the external, and what I really needed is self-worth. And to your point, uh, building self-worth is really about unlearning a lot of the lies that lead to self-doubt and igniting those truths that wake up worthiness. So that's why I wrote Worthy. I wrote
Yeah.
Worthy if you have some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill.
Yes. Let's is there a lie that you want to highlight? I mean, obviously everyone's listening, they're gonna go and be inspired to get the book. Is there a lie that you want to unravel for people and point out so they could be sensitive
Oh
to
my
it?
goodness.
And I'm sure there are a
Yeah.
number of lies that we tell ourselves that lead to self-doubt and what the truth would be to
Yes.
embrace, to be able to wake up to own that worthiness.
Yeah, I mean, just cracking open Worthy for a minute and just
Yeah.
to some of these lies, if I'm me, I won't be loved. I'm the real me. I'm an imposter. That is a big one. Right now, as we're talking, 73% of men feel inadequate and not enough. 80% of women feel like they're not enough. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. It is a big, big issue. Another lie, labels are permanent. A lot of us have let labels, oh my gosh, your story is so powerful around this about how to not let things other people say about us stick to us. And there's a whole exercise and framework, in the book about how to unlearn and remove labels. Almost like a lot of us think labels are permanent, and we let them stick to us like permanent things, but they're really like post-it notes. You can remove them like a light adhesive, and you can, do apply new labels to your life. If I stand out, I'll get kicked out. A lot of us are afraid of our greatness and we dim our light and show up inauthentically to belong. Um, there's another whole chapter in here about people pleasing, right? Which 40% of men describe themselves as people pleasers, over 50% of women do.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so many people, yeah, but like we feel we need to please others in order to be accepted or love or belong. But oftentimes it comes as a result of us betraying ourselves. And every time we show up inauthentically in this world, we are telling ourselves that who we are isn't enough.
Hmm.
And so I guess if I were to pick one lie, this will be really hard. You and I actually recently dove deep into rejection and reframing rejection. There's a whole masterclass in here, in Worthy, the book about how to change your relationship with rejection to change your life. But in our time, I would say I hope and pray everyone listening to us, and this is something I love so much about you, Jim, is when you step into the power of owning who you authentically are and like all of who you are, that is when you live in alignment with your assignment on this earth. And there's a whole chapter called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. And what what I love about this chapter is for anybody listening to us who has ever felt like who they are is not enough, or like perhaps if they were the real them, then maybe people would be like, oh, they're not as cool or funny or smart or competent as I thought they were. Or if anyone has ever felt odd or quirky or strange or different, uh, this whole chapter called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. is one of my favorites for that because I share how growing up, I was adopted and raised by five different families and love them all. I'm so blessed beyond measure. And what I will say is, I was the only one out of all five of my families that would have these kind of out there ideas like, what if we could end world hunger? What if I could launch a business one day? What if I could become a CEO one day? Right. And I had these just big ideas that were not normal for the families and environments I was raised around. And they'd always call me terms of endearment. They thought like, you're crazy. You're crazy. Like who do you think you are to have ideas like this? And I remember after many years of always kind of feeling like I needed to kind of dim my own light or change who I was to fit in. I was actually the first person in any of my families to go to therapy in my late 20s. And I remember asking my therapist, I said, my whole life, like people who love me, they're like, you have these wild ideas, you all these things, like you're crazy, these terms of endearment. I asked the therapist, I said, am I crazy? And she said, you're not crazy, but I'm really glad you're here. And she explained to me that when you're the first in your peer group or family or friends to kind of think different or be willing to show up as who you fully authentically are, not everyone's going to get it right away because there's only one of you that has ever been created, ever. And and this is for everyone listening to us right now, if you are one of the brave ones willing to show up authentically as who you truly are in this world, you're first. You're the first
Yes.
ever you. There's never been another you before, right? There's no one else with your unique fingerprints or heartbeat or your unique tongue print or your unique iris of your eyes or the experiences you've had in life or the emotions you feel the way you feel them or the way you see art and beauty and the world. And there's never been another you. And so you approach your business authentically or anything else, don't be surprised if not everyone gets it right away because they've never seen another you before. And when I launched my company, It Cosmetics, and grew it to $1 billion company, right, over many, many years, the first many years were met with all this rejection and people not thinking it's going to work. And also, I was entering a crowded space. A lot of people tell themselves the lie. This is one of the lies in the book Worthy, that my idea's already been done and I have nothing special to offer.
Mm.
Jim, I do not care how I entered a makeup industry where there's tens of
It's
thousands of makeup
one of the
companies.
most competitive industries out there.
Yeah, it's already been done. But guess what? I don't care what industry anyone listening is in or any, if you or what product you're going to launch or what idea you're going to put out there that you think, well, maybe someone else has already done it better. If you are actually willing to do it authentically to you, by definition, it has never been done before, ever. And that's the secret sauce. And so I remember the moment when my therapist had shared all this with me, and I had this moment that was like a light bulb went off in my brain, so bright that it burst. Where I was like, I'm not crazy. I'm just first. I'm just first. And I remember that every time I got told no, growing my business, every time I thought, I really believe in this vision that this product can really help people one day. And I'd be told, oh, that's never going to work. And I just would remember thinking, I'm not crazy, I'm just first. Or when I walk in a room and for whatever reason, maybe don't feel like I fit in, I'm like, I'll tell myself, it's okay. I'm just the first me. Eventually they'll love me. And this is a lie we tell ourselves that if I am who I am, it's somehow not enough. And if I'm the real me, I won't be loved. And every time we show up inauthentically, which by the way, Jim, it's impossible to have another connection, a true connection with another human being, whether it's a friend, a partner, our customers, unless you actually show up fully authentically. And so that is your power. That's your genius zone. And anytime you show up inauthentically as someone you think people want you to be, you're chipping away at your self-worth and telling yourself that who you are is not worthy. And so unlearning this lie, woo, when you tell yourself, I'm not crazy, I'm just first, it is powerful. It feels like joy. It tastes like freedom.
At the end of the book, you have a poem You're Not Crazy,
Mm,
You're Just First, a poem
yeah.
that you have in written audio and video that people can listen to and watch. That's right, right? I
Yeah,
haven't
there's
seen it
over.
yet. I've read the poem, but would it be can we take you reading that and put it into this podcast at the end?
Yeah, let me
Can
read an
people listen to
excerpt
it?
from it. I have permission to read an excerpt from it.
Go ahead.
And what I want to say is, it's wild how I just felt so in alignment with my assignment. We have a friend, Rory Vaden, who says in life, you're best positioned to serve the person you once were. And what I believe so much is that so much of us are seeking our purpose. And sometimes we think it needs to come from our job or our pursuits or whatever. But so often, when we can use the things we've gone through to become the things we make it through, and then help other people make it through those things, that can be one of our greatest sources of purpose in our lives. And with this book, Worthy, I just feel because my greatest struggle in life has been believing I'm enough. And I have done so much work to make it through that. It's a lifelong journey, as you mentioned, and I'm still making it through it. But I'm just so passionate about sharing these tools. And I just feel in such alignment. And so the book has over 20 tools to build self worth. And then Worthy has one poem, one poem. And I will read an excerpt from it right now because this is for every person who feels like maybe you were raised like I was with a family that you just felt like you were a little different or like you didn't quite fit in, or maybe you had to, and I have 5 families because I'm adopted, it's a whole thing, but you felt like maybe you had to dim your light to fit in, or you were the one that wanted to break generational cycles, or the one that wanted to, end addiction, or you're the one who wanted to break out and succeed in a whole new way. And we get tempted to doubt ourselves out of our own destiny and dim our light and step back in to fit in to the people we were raised around or the peer group that we fit into. And we tell ourselves we must just be crazy. Or growing up, I had a lot of friends and family that would love me, but when I'd have these big, bold ideas, they would be like, oh, you're crazy. Like things like that do not happen to people like us. And they would call me those words. And so this poem might just be for you today. Let me read an excerpt from it. The whole thing is in the book Worthy, but it's called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. Who do you think you are? They say. Things like that aren't for people like us. Why are you going around changing, planning to leave us in the dust? Are you forgetting where you come from? Are we not good enough anymore? And just like that, the temptation to play life small feels more comfortable than before. If you're doubting you're enough, your thoughts, their words have got you down, it's time for your soul to tell your mind there's a new boss in town. See, there's no one else quite like you in the entire universe. And what your soul knows is you're not crazy, you're just first. The first to have your hopes and dreams, the first you there's ever been. So don't be surprised if they don't get you or try to shame you to fit in. They call you odd, strange, different for having dreams bigger than they can see. Because those dreams were given to them, they see them through fear and anxiety. And even the well-intentioned people who love you to the bone can see you pursuing your dreams as a reminder of them not fulfilling their own. If people like people who are like them, hiding your true self is a comfort zone. But a calling unexpressed inside of you leaves you feeling anguished and alone, even inside of your own home. They call you words like crazy and say we stick together for better or for worse, but what your knowing knows is you're not crazy. You're just first. The first to launch the business, to dust your dreams off of the shelf. The first to believe you're worthy of betting on yourself. The first to beat addiction, to live life sober and awake. The first to end the generational cycle that you know you're born to break. The first to start healing. The first to forgive so you'll be free. The first to love others for who they are, not for who you wish they'd be. The first to be a visionary, to dream up the screenplay that you'll write. The first to recognize your gifts and stop hiding in plain sight. The first to risk rejection, to speak your truth with vigor, knowing the opposition might be big, but your creator is bigger. The first to cheer yourself on and truly believe it, not just fake it, knowing most people won't cheer for you until after you make it. In class, they used to pick you last, and now they're at a loss because instead of calling you employee, they now call you boss. The first to stand up for the outcast and say, stop teasing, I just won't. You might be tempted to underestimate me, but let me save you some time. Don't. The first to say, you broke my heart. You gave up on me for something else, and it took me a while to know I'm worthy of believing in myself. And what I know is, yeah, you hurt me, but I'm not rejected, see? God just hid my value from you because you're not assigned to my destiny. The first to say, let's agree to disagree. We all have the right to free speech too. Stop trying to cancel and hate on others just because you're hurting too. The first to believe in your dreams, even when others might not get you, then one day love them anyways when they're bragging to people how they met you. You are not your successes. You're not how many times you fail or fall. You are how big you love, and love is free for all. See, when we fear we're not enough and fear even more we won't be loved, it is so tempting to shrink in size and trade in our purpose for their hugs. But when you're feeling like you don't fit in or that you never quite belong, your uniqueness is your superpower. Your truth is never wrong. And when they criticize to hold you back because your dreams aren't what they're used to, and they're afraid that you'll outgrow them, leave them behind, and that they'll lose you, stop asking for their advice if they've never been there themselves. Because when you people please for others, you end up betraying yourself. So when doubt tempts you to dim your light, always remember this verse. Your soul knows you were made for more, with so much purpose it could burst. You're born with greatness inside you. And whether it's a blessing or a curse, the world won't be better until your greatness is dispersed. See, there's only one of you in the entire universe. And your knowing knows deep down, you're not crazy. You're just first. You're not crazy. You're just first. All right, I want you to hear me out on this because this is a life-changing concept and it's also true. So you might be thinking, what do you mean I'm first? I'm not the first to do anything. My ideas, someone's already done them, that kind of thing. I bet someone's done them better than I have. All right, I want you to just take this in for a minute because when you embrace your firstness, it not only helps build really, really strong self-worth, but it can change how bravely you show up in the world as who you truly are. It can change your perspective on whether or not you feel like you belong or not, whether or not you feel like people get you. Literally, it can help you realize that the things that you thought maybe were odd or quirky or off about you are actually almost always the things that are most right with you. So this idea, you're not crazy, you're just first. So hear me out. And I go into this really deep into how to embrace this fully and worthy. There's a whole chapter and a poem called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. Here's the thing. There is only one of you in the entire universe. There's never been another you before. There'll never be another you again. And if you're saying, well, what's the big deal? Just think about this for a minute. You are the only one in existence with your fingerprints, right? You're the only one in existence with your tongue print. Yep, we all have a unique tongue print. You're the only one in existence with the iris of your eyes. You actually have a unique heartbeat that no one else in the world has, right? And think about this. You're the only one that has the set of experiences you've had in life You're the only one to feel the emotions that you feel at any moment, exactly the way you feel them. You're the only one that sees art and beauty and ups and downs and highs and lows the way that you do. You, if you are one of the brave ones willing to actually show up in this world as who you authentically are, you're first. If you're one of the, now if you show up as your representative or try to be like someone else, etc., but if you're one of the brave ones, showing up as who you fully, authentically are, you are first. And when you are first, do not be surprised if not everyone gets it. Don't be surprised if you might walk into a few rooms and feel like you don't quite belong. Don't be surprised if you feel like someone just doesn't get you or you don't fit in. You're first. There's never been another you before. And there's never been, there never will be another you like you. This concept is huge because so many of us feel like, oh, I've got to change who I am to fit in. Or, you know, people have been calling me odd or quirky or off or different or strange, right? Or crazy. You're not crazy. You're just first. You're just first. And here's the thing, when it comes to your ideas, your goals, your dreams, your art that you want to put out there in the world, your business that you launched or that you are in the process of launching, right? Don't be surprised if not everyone gets it at first. Because if you are doing, listen, I don't care how many people out there have done the idea before you. If you're doing it authentically to you, no one's ever done it, right? Like when I built It Cosmetics, there was thousands of makeup companies doing thousands of foundations and concealers, but no one had done it the way I was going to do it, authentically to me. So by definition, that excuse of like, oh, someone's done my idea or something, it's impossible. If you bring who you authentically are to that idea, to that business, to that piece of art, to that expression, to that offering to the world, you're first. No one else has done it quite like you. So when it comes to your business or your ideas or your art, if you're putting it out there and you feel like it's not getting traction or you're not sure why, or maybe you're showing it to like experts and touted visionaries and you're wondering why they don't think it's going to succeed, here's why. I'll tell you why. Because when I built It Cosmetics, I was doing it so differently. Almost everybody told me it's not going to work. Like so many of the experts I put on pedestals said it's not going to work. And listen, they wanted the best for me. But even touted visionaries, even experts, subconsciously, they're not going to believe something's going to work if they've never seen it work before. If there's no social proof it's going to work. So if you're doing something that is authentic to you, they've never seen it work before because it's never been done. So it is, if I had learned this lesson, by the way, y'all, I would have saved myself so many nights crying myself to sleep. Like thinking like, why does everyone not think this idea is going to work, right? Many of us know the outcome. 8 years later, 100 weeks later, It Cosmetics grew to $1 billion business. But for many years, because I was doing it authentic to me, it wasn't working in the beginning. People didn't quite get it in the beginning. And a lot of experts said it would never, ever work. And so I want you to really take this to heart, okay? That when you are doing something authentic to who you are, it has never been done before. It has never been done before. And so you got to get really, really good at cheering yourself on, at believing in the offering you're putting out there into the world, whether it's in the form of just showing up as who you are and all that you are, whether it's in the form of a business or creation or ideas or art. You have to get really, really good at cheering yourself on, because what I have learned is most people will cheer you on after you make it, after the thing catches on, after people start embracing it. So in that journey, I want you to remember this. If you're doing something that you feel like others are like, I don't get it, doesn't quite fit in, you don't quite belong, right? You're different or odd or strange or crazy. You're not crazy. You're just first. And I just want to share one more thing. And again, there's a whole chapter in Worthy called You're Not Crazy, You're Just First. And we go deep into how to really look at your identity and build your self-worth around this. Because for so many of us, feeling like we are not enough and don't belong can take root at an identity level. I remember growing up, I have 5 families. I was adopted. It's a whole story. But I remember so many of my loving, well-intentioned family members would say things to me like, you're so odd or strange or crazy. I would have these big ideas on how to impact the world or, solve global problems. And I didn't even know what I was talking about at that point in my life, but I just had these big, dreams and ideas and thoughts. And they would literally, so many of them would always say like, you're crazy. Like, who do you think you are? Like, you're crazy, all that. And I remember there was this moment in my life when in my 20s, I had gone to therapy for the first time ever. And I literally asked my therapist, I'm like, I feel like, I don't fit in and sometimes I don't belong in the room and this and that. And I have these ideas. And she explained to me that when you are somebody who, especially is the first in your family, or first in your peer group, or first amongst the people you spend time around, or first amongst the people you were raised around, to have, to think differently, to actually be willing to show up as who you authentically are. Like, don't be surprised if you don't feel like you fit in because you're first. You're the first to truly, have the confidence and the self-worth to show up as all of who you are. And I just remember this moment that hit me like a light bulb, so powerful, the light bulb burst when I realized, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm just first. So I just want to share this with you today in case these words are for you. You're not crazy. You're just first. You're not odd. You're just first. There's nothing wrong with you. In fact, the things you think are most odd or quirky or wrong with you are actually so often the things that are most right with you. The things that are most right with you. And when you're one of the brave ones who is willing to show up in this world as who you authentically are, you are first. So be the first, best, most quirky, odd, fully embracing, talented, gifted, like full expression, best ever, only you who are first.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima!
Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.